Oh, hey. So a question that's come up fairly frequently recently is, as a new player in Final Fantasy XIV, should you pick up multiple different classes to play? The answer is a little nuanced, but let's talk about it. Before we get started, it would help a ton if you could support the channel. So at the end of the video, if you like this video, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button because it really helps me to grow. And if you want to interact with me more in real time, I stream on Twitch 2 nights a week. So feel free to pop on over there. But let's talk about starting classes. So starting Final Fantasy XIV, there are a ton of jobs in the game, but there are only 9 classes that you can start out with. There's a 10th class you can pick up, but you can't start on that class. So we'll leave that out for this first part of the conversation. Within those classes, there's the 3 roles, which are tanks, healers, and DPSs. Now, picking up any combination of these can be fine. You obviously can only choose one during character creation. So you'll choose the one that draws to you most, and if you want a little help with that, I will talk about that in a different video that I will post below. But let's talk about what happens after you've chosen your character, and now you've reached the point where you can start picking up more classes. Should you pick up all of them? So I said the answer is nuanced. My personal suggestion starting out is no. It really depends on your level of gaming experience in general, I would say. So we're gonna put people who are starting Final Fantasy into 3 categories. People who have experience with MMOs, people who have experience with gaming but not MMOs, and people who don't have experience in gaming. Each of these categories is going to directly affect how you choose to play starting out, or what's going to make it the easiest for you to enjoy your experience starting out. So we'll start in the category of people who've played MMOs before. People who've played MMOs before and kind of understand the general flow of how playing an MMO works, especially people who come from games like WoW, will understand tanks, DPSs, rotations, healing, damage over time, and other common terms that you would hear, as well as just generally what to do given any particular circumstance. Those players have a little more flexibility in what they can take on. So if they wanted to pick up more classes to kind of feel around a bit more and find out what they like to do, I think that's fine. Personally, when I started out, I was not an MMO experienced player, so I did not do this one. The gamer who has not played an MMO before but has plenty of gaming experience. So this one is me. I started out as a pugilist because that was what interested me the most. And I ended up switching to that 10th class I mentioned earlier as soon as I was able to, because that was the one that I was looking for. That's what I wanted to play. Starting out as a rogue made sense to me because I knew what, I guess, player fantasy I had of what kind of weapons I wanted to wield and how I wanted to fight and things like that starting out. So that's why I pivoted to that. For people who have experience in gaming, I will say, as falling into this category, that learning how to play an MMO is not quite the same as playing most other games. There's a bit of a, I wouldn't say a learning curve, but it's just different. It's different than what you would come used to. I grew up as a console gamer, and it's very different from console gaming. So in that capacity, I still wouldn't necessarily suggest jumping around a lot. And I'll kind of get into the details of what I'm talking about with this after we talk about the third type, which is people who are completely new to gaming. And 14 is one of their first, if not their first, video games that they've ever played, or people who come from a particular type of gaming, such as cozier games that don't have a lot of action-heavy or very stringent requirements to play. For these players in particular, playing multiple classes is probably a bad decision, just outright. Again, there's a little caveat here, but the first thing you need to focus on before you start worrying about different kinds of classes and different kinds of playstyles is how to play the baseline game fundamentally. That's learning your abilities, learning what order to push your buttons in, learning the flow of an instance like a dungeon or a trial, so that you have a really good understanding of how the game is played. Because if you don't build those fundamental building blocks, the game gets a lot harder the farther in it you go and becomes a lot less forgiving. The normal difficulty content is not difficult. One, because as a community, we're 13 years deep into the game, right? So we do a lot of damage. Things die fairly quickly, even with the limiters that have been put on by the developers. However, the farther along you get, the longer things will take, the more new mechanics you'll see, the more things you'll get punished by. So learning the baseline fundamentals of the game before you start jumping into playing every class on the board is something that I would highly, highly recommend starting out with. Now, for those nuances, first little asterisk. If you're not enjoying the thing that you're playing, you should consider trying something else. That's not saying learn every other class, but if you started out as a marauder who becomes a warrior and you don't like tanking, or you're not having fun playing with it because the Unga Bunga playstyle is not for you, whatever the case may be, then you should consider switching off of it. Because you need to enjoy the game first and foremost. It is a game. And so if you've started this out and you need to switch, then you should switch. You're gonna have to level something else, and that is a bit time consuming. However, there are ways to do it quickly, especially at early level, and I can make a video about that as well if you would like to know. In the case where you're not enjoying yourself, absolutely switch classes. Second little asterisk, if you are enjoying yourself, but you're starting to find yourself getting a little bored, things are getting a little stale, you have a pretty good ground understanding of the game, you're like, I get it, I get rotations, I'm just getting a little bored. That's the time, the second time, in which you will look to change and start learning other things. This is still not learning everything. This is now diversifying what you're playing as, because you want to make sure that, again, at the end of the day, enjoying the game is the most important thing. And if you're not enjoying it, you want to make sure that you've tried other ways to determine what it is that you're enjoying or not enjoying. Because if you try one class and you're like, oh my God, I'm miserable, this is awful, and then you quit when the whole issue was this class in particular is not for you, you could be missing out on something great. I will give you a story, actually. Toki was exactly this case. When we started out the game, she started out as an Arcanist because she wanted to be a spellcaster. As somebody who played more cozy games than anything, not really a lot of heavy action-driven things, standing still while you're watching your spell bar fill up and a monster's running at you, getting ready to clock you in the face, was terrifying for her. A lot of shrieking, a lot of running. We know, as we learn, or if we have experience in games, that getting hit is not necessarily bad. It depends on the circumstance. In Final Fantasy, getting hit is kind of necessary in a lot of circumstances. If you're a tank, your whole job is get hit, right? But because she was playing an Arcanist, she was panicking. She wasn't able to get any attacks off because she couldn't cast her spells because she was running away in fear. She wasn't having any fun. And so she quit. She quit and didn't want to play the game anymore. She gave it a try, wasn't into it. About 7, 8, 9 months later, at some point, it occurred to me that if she was playing ranged DPS instead, so an archer in this case, she would have a much better time because there's no cast bar. She still gets to keep her distance and not get hit while she's getting accustomed to the game. And it's just a little faster pace for her in a good way, because you're not standing around casting, right? She can run and gun. Melee would be okay, but because you're gonna stand there and get hit, it still creates that fear. But archer, you can just, I pleaded with her, beseeched her, and she tried it again. And now, a year and change later, she's in the middle of Shadowbringers and her main is a Dark Knight. She now plays a tank and she plays Samurai. So that change for her to be able to get comfortable with the nuances of the game was the core thing to bringing her the enjoyment. So to summarize, you should not play every class available to you as soon as it's available to you. You should keep to a class while you're getting used to the game. And either A, if you're not enjoying yourself, or B, if you're comfortable with the fundamentals and looking for something to kind of spice it up a little bit, then you should absolutely look into other classes. What other classes you should look into? That's a conversation for a different video because there's also nuances into that. However, I hope this at least answers the question of, should I play every class available? Because it's probably a no. It may not be a no, but it's probably a no. If you have any more questions, you are welcome to leave them in the comments below. I do check every comment. Or if you'd like, you can join the Cobalt Borealis Discord. We're building a pretty robust community, very much around Final Fantasy XIV, but other games as well. It's definitely a place for everybody. If you're a Sprout who is on the free trial and you don't have a way to communicate, it's a great place to come and make connections with new friends or new people to just run the game with. If you are a returner and a lot of your older friends have left the game and now you are lacking those connections, same thing. It's a great place to come and build them. If you're a veteran, we have people who run anything from casual content to hardcore raiding. So if you want to be a part of any of that, I highly recommend you drop by. It'll be a great time. With that, thanks for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video.